On today's video, part 2 of Heroic Anthem 523, as squad get pushed up almost all the way home with no flags remaining, but one fort and a dream. When that comes back into play, 538 find themselves with territory cut out and tens of cities zeroed as we try to get back into Zone 5 and potentially take it over from 3 Korean kingdoms. So sit back, smash a like on the video, and let's go. Hey there YouTube, welcome back to Gekko Gaming. This is part 2 of Heroic Anthem 523, where we in squad and the folks of 554 went up against 3 Korean kingdoms in Zone 5. Part 1 carded up on the top right if you haven't seen that yet. But man, this was crazy. Last we left off, these guys have dropped forts, the flags were starting to meet up, and the rallies were starting. I tried to random TP to somehow get a little close to flags, so maybe I take a rally or two while imprisoned potentially, but not too close so they don't imprison me and double gangbang the life out of me. And that right there was as close as I could get to get completely wrecked. On top of that, you'll see in a second, while I was joining squad, that fort finished building and people poured right around me, and I was like, yeah, we are not taking we're not taking a rally from here. That's how you get zeroed. And so that's where I wanted to be, a little bit further out, so that at least I take 1 rally or 2 rallies at most if I get imprisoned. Not too strong just yet to take multiple rallies while imprisoned and all that good stuff. We needed those resources for something else. And so went back to TP to our territory, and of course, my man Super Shenron, shout out to him, had to be a troll as soon as I found a spot and clicked. Oh, thank you, Super. I appreciate you for that. But honestly, he's better off up there than I am. And we found a spot, we TP'd, and the fighting began. Here is the deal. You should know something about the Korean community in Rise of Kingdoms because, like it or not, these guys play Rise of Kingdoms in a completely different way. If you are curious what I was using on the open field and what commanders, what pairs and all that, equipment, all that's on the screen going on right now. We're not the most equipped account in the game just yet. There's a few things that we can do better. I prioritize the legendary accessories over more epic equipment, but for next KVK, we're going to be a little bit better geared up, or even actually for the next battle coming up January 21st, I believe, and we'll be streaming that on this channel, so you want to make sure you're subscribed and come back when that happens. We also use the archer skin when open fielding, as majority of my marches are archers. And as we open field, murder balled, did everything we needed to do, it's time for you to understand one important thing about the Korean community. And for the record, shout out to all the Korean community because you guys make Rise of Kingdoms very, very, very interesting. Because they play Rise of Kingdoms in a very different way. Their gameplay, game style is completely different than what we were used to in the past. If you recall, the way Rise of Kingdoms evolved, it went from rallies that you never touch the rally, never swarm a rally no matter what, to then we need open field first to then start rallying, or else if you don't have the open field, how do you rally? Back then, open field was like, if we go on their territory, then they have advantage. So we stay on our territory and we fight on that edge between the 2 territories. And if you go in or out, that's not very good. That was the first season or second season. Yeah, first season of KVK was something like that. In the second one, open field presence started being a little bit more important. By the 3rd KVK, people have realized that if we take the open field, rallies are going to come in and they're going to get wrecked by a good garrison because they can't take reinforcements as the open field will not allow it. And then it evolved to open field swarming rallies. And so until Tel Takeda came up, and that was a little bit of a problem, but people still swarm at Tel Takeda. The Korean community hit the game running when it comes to open field. They realized from the very beginning that they need to have overwhelming presence in the open field no matter what. And I mean no matter what in the sense of you will occasionally find the Scipio Osman Archer March on the field because that's what that farm account had available, and it just went in, right? that's one of the things that make playing against Koreans so difficult, is that they have such a massive open field presence, and they work so well together by coordinating, by being on call, on voice chats and all that, that it really seems surreal the way they play. You can see right here in this double rally of madness, we're getting... we're taking a spanking from a double Atel Takeda rally. Slowly and steadily, as time went on, more and more overwhelming power came from the Korean side of SS-34, V-38, and 476S, I believe it is. And they just overwhelmed. And it's not only these kingdoms. The whole community plays in a more aggressive open field fashion and less necessarily on the optimized best pairing commanders available out there. People in certain situations say, well, I don't have good commanders. I don't want to go with more than this one march because that's all the good commanders that I have. They send 5 marches out and whatever they do. Something is better than nothing. And I like that approach. Look at the bottom left as they slowly keep pushing in and overwhelming us. Now, they swarmed the counter rally that went onto the rallies. They swarm everything. And so Murder Ball worked out pretty well for a little bit, but you can't win when the open field is so overwhelmed. Now let's look at a quick report of that double rally. It'll show up momentarily on our screen. Apologies, these are reports of open field fights because this is a thing that you should know. Whether you like it or not, the overwhelming power that they put in doesn't mean that you cannot get insanely good positive trades. I mean, right there. You can very, very easily find yourself in positions where you're doing very good trades against a lot of the strategies that Korean kingdoms employ at the very beginning of the overwhelming presence that they have. The reason they consistently manage to beat kingdoms in open field fights is they manage to crack kingdoms mentally before they manage to crack them on the field. Once you see that huge mob of Korean players, just huge mob, and you're like, well, I have 5 marches. What the heck do I do? People start giving up. And when you start giving up, you're screwed. And it happens. You can say, no, I'm a warrior, right? But you give up. And so do bunch of warrior kingdoms because they see a madness open field presence and they don't see themselves there. And then they go, well, screw this. If my alliance mates don't do it, I don't do it. And then the alliance mate says the same. That happens right there. The number one tip I have for y'all is don't give up. Because like it or not, you will do insanely good trades if you have enough presence on the field and pick the correct targets. The correct targets being support marches first. You don't want to go up against the Richards first. You don't want to go up against the Takedas first. You don't want to go up against the Guans first. You want to go up against those Ethelfleds, those Constantines, those Williams, Saladin Williams on the field, first and foremost. After that, if you see an Ethelfled behind a Richard, then sure, go for that. A Guan comes up next because that AoE damage he does is huge. But you need your team to pick targets correctly and not to give in to the fact that all of you are getting pushed back home again and again and again, because when you look at the reports, the trades are insanely positive in your favor, which means as long as you continue to push in, you will eventually crack their resources. Now, in a kingdom that has, let's say, 500 active players, there aren't 500 players with 1 billion of each resource. There could be 50, there could be 60. But those guys are not distributing their resources to everybody. At the end of the day, for this to be on the screen the way it is for SS-34, and I believe there's SG-34 in there, and V-538, and all those guys, they need the smaller players to be there as well. But when you start milking those smaller players for heals and for speed ups and for resources, they start dwindling down, and then you get massively better trades against the 1 billion plus resource people, and then they end up giving up. So the bottom line is keep pushing as a group up on the other side of the pass, make the correct picks, get wrecked, go again and again, and again and again, so long as you're able to sustain positive trades. Now this is not a positive trade. This was a huge W for this rally on the out flag. 600k extra deads on the side of out on a very decent Attila Takeda, 83% health, 298 in Heroic Anthem. That is not that much. I can tell you that the strongest Attila Takeda I've seen in Heroic Anthem today reaches 400.5% attack. And some peeps are hitting with 338s, 350s, so forth and so on. So 298 is very, very good, but it's not amazingly amazing if you consider the amounts of researches in Heroic Anthem and all that good stuff. So keep that in mind when you are fighting against Korean kingdoms. Take a look at the trades, make sure you're selecting troops correctly, and make sure your kingdom is aware of the fact that you'll most likely get overrun for a long while until you manage to break them. And you just got to be able to break them. And believe it or not, a good mid-tier, mid-spender player in Rise of Kingdoms that has a little bit of speed up saved up to heal can be very influential in these scenarios as well. On top of that, as you saw right there, these folks had Zenobia available. That's right. They did have a Zenobia on the flag. They had Zenobias on their side all over the place. We, I believe, have 2 of them. I don't exactly know if there are more in 401, but I am one of them, and Brawny is the other one. And out of the 2 of us, I am the one with a Theodora available, and I would say Brawny is probably going to rock that Charles Martel secondary combo. Let's talk about us for a little bit, though, because we've talked about our enemies up to this point. Squad is an alliance that's been working together for a fairly long time. They have a core of leadership and members that are veterans in the team, and they know and they have their roles and the way they do things. And as someone who joins a new alliance, a new kingdom, especially someone like me who has been in a kingdom for 450 plus days and then migrated to a new one, it's a little bit tough to adjust. I had a little bit of a running in when it comes to the way they do things, and it was a little bit painful. And also when it comes to Garrison, it was a little bit painful. When the leadership mail came out about whose roles are what, I wasn't even listed as a Garrison Captain. And the reason for that is, and that's not to blame them. The reason for that is that they have their people, and that's completely fine. They have Easy, who has very, very good garrison commanders. He has very good garrison commanders. He can definitely hold a flag without an issue. They have Cam, who also has some very good garrison and also has he's a good rally leader. He's one of the rally leaders. They have Death Squad, obviously, that has equipment that is better than all of my researches combined, who can hold a flag if he chooses to. And in this case, Zenobia was in the flag but was not captained. I managed to earn my first time captaining a flag and failed miserably. Remember when I showed you earlier that I was switching equipment between commanders? I have one good set of infantry equipment as of right now, and when I was open field fighting, it was on Richard. I may have left it on Richard. Yep. The first time I garrisoned with my Zenobia, I messed up, and it cost us. Not too terribly, but it cost us, and I lost. And I would say they didn't say it, but I will say it. They lost a little bit of faith on it, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll revert back to our people." But then I managed to earn a second shot, and it worked out stupendously well. And in the third shot, it worked out stupendously well. And at that stage, I managed to establish myself as a primary garrison captain with Zenobia. Now, for the record, it's not that my Zenobia is this God-gifted commander that no one else can get, right? You guys have my talent trees. You guys have get her to level 60, expertise her, get better equipment than mine, and you'll do just as good, if not better. And for the record, Zenobia means nothing if we don't have some insanely awesome alliance mates to refill that flag over and over and over, right? What's the point of a commander if there's no troops behind it? So that's one thing. Once we managed to get into the rotation of garrison captains, things started changing. Now the problem here is as followed. By the time that happened, things got a little bit out of control in this zone 5. The way fights happened and the times they happened were very, very, very bad for us. The timing of this zone happened to be that when it opened, it was kind of towards the prime time of squad and a little bit of a less prime time for the Korean community. But as time went on, it got better and better for them and worse for us. And to make matters worse, the fights don't start at the beginning. It takes time until your flags get to meet. And so the open field early fights were very good, but as the hours went on and the flags kept building, our presence went a little bit down and their presence went a lot up. And it caused a situation where we got overwhelmed. Now, I actually managed to launch a few rallies as well and trade very well. I don't understand people that fear launching rallies. I am not that big of a player. I'm not that good of a player either. I'm not saying I'm a top tier godly player, but I don't have a fear of launching a rally, and my alliance mates don't have the they realize that, you know, anyone who's capable of launching a rally and has sane commanders and sane understanding of what they're doing gets the backing. And so, for the record, I urge you all, if you have an Atel Takeda, for example, that you can use to rally targets, why are you open fielding trying to catch a little bit of kills here and there instead of helping your alliance and rallying targets? We rallied a Zenobia flag and burned, baby, it burned. First time we burned a Zenobia flag, and positive trades. Not insanely positive, but positive trades nonetheless. And it was the first time a Zenobia broke, and we were like, this works. And it was very nice. At this point, though, things got really rough. And what you're watching here is actually 12 hours later, because we had to call it. We got wrecked. We got pushed back all the way to the back, with the exception of that one fort we dropped in the middle of Lord knows where. That burned for a few hours, and then when folks started waking up, we put it out and started fighting in it again. The problem is we're surrounded by enemies and enemy flags with no TP spots available. Now, one flag managed to drop, and I was so far away. I was 57 kilometers away. Marching my Zenobia in here wouldn't have been a thing. So we needed to hope and pray Death Squad's, I think this is Death Squad's Theodora Yi Sun Sin, can hold this flag for dear life, and then we have a little bit of territory. This was the beginning of coming back. 12 hours before, on that RB area that y'all saw previously, a call was made by leadership. Pack your stuff. Let's walk backwards. Let's regroup. And let's do this again. We have that fort. We're going to go again in a few hours. Don't get wrecked. We are not done yet. Some people didn't take that to heart. Some people never got to a point where they lost a a zone early on and then managed to push back in and take it over. That's something that doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen almost at all that people have the audacity to say, let's back off, let's give them the zone, and let's see how we can get back into this. In majority of times, folks go all in, even though they already lost the fight, they keep going, they lose everything, and then they're done. So at this point, we're just trying to get the open field area clear, to get a couple of people to TP. And I had already mentioned to folks, at this stage, my Zenobia has been successful at holding flags. It is better for me to hold a flag than Death Squad. All due respect, Death Squad has insane equipment. He should be leading rallies, open field slaughtering people, and not me. I can stay on the flag and hold. His legendary equipment can go wreck people somewhere else. Much more effective. And so once this flag builds, the voice chat calls for a spot next to the flag for me to TP in so I can hold on to the flag while Death Squad does what he did, which is lead And of course, not only him, for the record, there was Cena in here, there was Shenron showed up in here, there was Caps in here. There's a bunch of folks who just were rallying everything they can and just trying to burn flags as much as possible. And all I wanted to do is to get close enough to put a garrison here, to put a garrison on the other flag, which I have the ability to put 2 garrison holds nowadays in a very decent way. And from there, allow our open field fight with the rest of my marches and our rally leaders to rally. This was the spot I was looking to get, and we eventually ended up there. From here, I would say a miracle happened. Nothing short of a miracle happened. Because as time went on, this was the late night time for the Korean kingdoms. And so that's why there was such little presence. They also thought they had already won, while for us, it was somewhat of a decent time. You can see the map right here. Look at where I am, and look at where our forts and flags are. That's all we had, surrounded by blue. They were already at our passes. You don't see the walls, but you can see the squares, the purple and blue squares up on the top left. That's the pass, and those are forts blocking the pass. The grayed out block right above the blue block, that is the pass, okay? They pushed us all the way to the back. It was over, by all means. And then this is where everything began. This little group of people right there teleported in and did crazy stuff. If you take a look at where that purple city is, that is Death Squad right there. And the flag in front of him is the only thing holding the rest of those V538 flags. Now, these guys thought they won. These guys thought they had it. They thought it was over. And as I TP'd to hold on to our flag, which was burning, and after I went in it, it burned no more. Death Squad went on to do what he needed to do. And guess what? So did I. I am absolutely thankful for the opportunity to rally stuff. I'm absolutely thankful for being able to participate. Now, granted, as you can see right here, what I'm doing in this specific scenario is I am leeching gold chests right here from my alliance while I sit back, as you can clearly see on the screen. I absolutely am doing that right now. And that's what I tend to do in Rise of Kingdoms, in case you have not been updated on what Farmer Gekko does in Rise of Kingdoms. But yeah, I managed to get those archer rallies out. Our equipment, as you saw, is not top tier gold equipment, but you need to do do something. I have the archer commanders. I'm available. I'll rally. Are there no other archer commanders available in 401? There probably are, and there absolutely are. Death Squad has a better one, but his Atel Takeda is twice as strong. So why wouldn't he use his Atel Takeda somewhere else, and we'll leave the archers for Gekko, the farmer, the gold chests leecher, for this flag, and many, many more to come of Zenobia. And we burned them every single time. With positive kill trades, almost 100,000 kill trade positive for us on a very short rally. We did much better trades later on as well, for the record. And as I mentioned, not only Death Squad, but also Cena, but also Cam, but also Supa, and a bunch of others got to the point where we managed to start burning flags. And while we were at it, some of these people thought that we can go to sleep off territory. For the record, even when you win all of the zone, you cannot take pass 4s away from the other team. So if you put yourself like this dude in another alliance territory and you go to sleep, we can send a rally to you all the way from the pass to march 20 minutes down to your city. And if you're asleep, my boy, you will get wrecked. And we found a few of those. We found a few of those audacious folks who went to sleep off territory, and it ended really bad. But then it turned even worse, because Death Squad burned the one flag that was connecting V538's territory. And those are all cities. All the cities that Squad alone were rallying. Remember, there's RX and there's out. Needless to say, that what happened here was a slaughter. Hell, even I went to rally a city in this stage. There were so many to pick out of that even I went with an archer's rally on the city, because why on earth not? And it was absolutely bonkers. You're going to see in a moment rally, archer rally right there, Attila Takeda on this side, Attila Takeda rallies, a rally up here, a rally marching that way. Zeroing fest, the bonfire of hell, as this guy got unlucky enough to be targeted by 2 rallies, and somehow he ended also getting double rallied exactly at the same time. This is not coordinated. Nobody knew this was happening, and somehow these 2 rallies came in right at the same time. It was crazy. We were right next to it, hitting that sun too, poor guy. And Lord have mercy on the guys that got zeroed in 538, because let me tell you, I would say probably two dozen cities with T5s, not 30 million cities, 50 to 90 million power players zeroed entirely and utterly. And it was a lot of fun. Nothing like killing 1.2 million troops and losing 100,000. I mean, it can't get any better than that. I'll tell you that. Well, it does get better than that if you have an Attila Takeda. Maybe we'll work on that next. And this is when things started to turn. This video is already fairly long, and I want to close out give you a little bit more reports of juicy zeroing, of course. And we have a couple of minutes still remaining, because I want to set the stage for you guys for our next and final part of Zone 5. We are now on the come up. Folks are getting destroyed. Wrench, absolute beast. Beast. Another one of the folks, by the way, who was rallying things out the wazoo. Unnamed Soldier, beast, rallying things out the wazoo. Of course, Redline, massive beast. Also a content creator in Rise of Kingdoms. If you don't know who Redline is, Redline, Rise of Kingdoms. Go on YouTube, type that, go subscribe to Benny. He's a cool dude, very strong player too. Brawny got a snack as well. But then came the miracle. Because when we cut off their flag, we burned 2 dozen cities. That's amazing, right? That's a W. But in the same breath of air, we were also burning flags in the other direction. All of these cities were the cities that were closer to our passes. It was all that area that we burned towards our passes. But the sanctuary was on the other side. And while folks were zeroing stuff here, flags were burning on the other side, and we started laying a few flags to get a little bit closer to the sanctuary and try to get at least to contest it. Remind you that at this stage, this is day 2 of these fights, and the Korean kingdoms have already finished their bastion quests for Charles Martel. So in all of these fights, these guys can potentially have 30% extra counter damage, which we do not have. So keep that in mind for the next video, and I'll mention it again. But at this stage, this is where things started getting interesting. Because we were rallying nonstop with archers and burning them down slowly and steadily. But we also placed ourselves in a point where we got to the last stage where it was us versus 2 kingdoms, our flag against the 2 of theirs on New Year's Eve. And guess what? People are humans, you know what I'm saying? They go out, they party, it's New Year's Eve. You got to live your life. You don't sit playing Rise of Kingdoms. But we are 1 flag against 2 kingdoms in front of us. And what on earth are we going to do? And how on earth are we going to survive the night? Because the night was very long, I can tell you, because I stayed up all night. And the next video is literally the craziest thing that's ever happened to me as a Garrison Captain, and I think in all of KVKs. For now, I'm Gekko. I'm out of here. I appreciate every one of you who dropped a like on this video, and of course, subscribe down below. The next and final part of this series will come out on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. And from there on, we have some massive, massive, massive fights from the folks of 331 and 254. That's coming up as well. 2 to 3 KVK videos about the folks of 331 and 254 going bonkers at each other in Zone 5. I'll see you all on stream tomorrow. Take care and have a great rest of your week. Peace.